Welcome to episode 12 of the TarPack podcast. We will get started with our football program, the reviews and previews for UNC and UNC and NC State, and then we'll talk briefly about the first game of the basketball season for each team. So let's get started with the NC State versus Miami review. I'll hand it off here to Cam 187.
And now, NC State versus Miami. NC State won 20-6. What a performance by our defense, stopping them on like the 1 yard line on fourth down when they went for it. Just so many chances, as just a great performance by our defense, and our offense was not horrible. We had a running touchdown somehow, surprisingly. Obviously, Kevin Concepcion, absolutely cooked again. And yeah, now to my top three. Number one, it's like an everyday occurrence, I feel like. Every game, just Peyton Wilson.
He has really emerged as the best player in your team. Honestly, by far.
Not even close. I mean,
he's made himself into an NFL prospect, even though he's old.
Yeah. And number two, I got Shaquem Battle. Had a very good game. Barely allowed any yards. Just no one was open on Miami. And I mean, the pressure and everything, which Shaquem Battle doesn't do, but he was strapping every person he was guarding. And number three, you could probably expect this too. Yeah, Kevin Concepcion. I'm going to put someone on offense. I could have definitely put someone on defense again. I just feel like I got to put the one player that has been actually like good on our offense on there, Kevin Concepcion. Just been very good. And now going to the preview of NC State versus Wake Forest. Starting with the quarterback, I'm going to give this to Brendan Armstrong because MJ Morris redshirted, which is unfortunate. But, I mean, at least we're going to have him for another 3 years now. But Brendan Armstrong, I feel like he's going to come back and just try harder and try to show himself again after he really did not through when he first started here. And obviously, Wake Forest quarterback had just been horrible the whole year, like Brendan Armstrong.
Got benched at one point.
Yeah, but Brendan Armstrong has to run. And now running backs, I'm gonna give this to Wake Forest. Yeah, sorry, my mouth kind of swerved out, but yeah, Wake Forest. Both running games have been pretty horrible. Like when I say this, like Brendan Armstrong has been our best running back, and he's not a running back, but yeah.
That's when you know your running back room is pretty bad.
Yeah. And that wide receiver, I'm gonna give this to Wake Forest. Even though overall, I think NC State has the best wide receiver by talent with Kevin Concepcion, but Wake Forest had a more talented room. And now tight end, I'm gonna give this to NC State. Obviously Trent Penix and them.
Wake Forest does not use their tight ends much at all.
Yeah, like really not at all. And now the offensive line, I'm gonna give this to NC State. Has not been great this year.
It's been barely better than Wake Forest though. And the fact that Wake Forest runs that weird offense where they hold the ball forever, that can help the offensive line. So.
Yeah. And now to the defensive line, obviously Wake Forest. Sorry, my mouth swerved again. Obviously, NC State just diving van with all the pressure against Miami.
Red
Hibbler with the sack fumble. What a play by him. Very talented freshman right there.
We were high on Red Hibbler as a transfer prospect.
Yeah, as a transfer. Linebacker, don't even need to say anything. Yes, NC State. Peyton Wilson, that's basically it. Secondary, I brought up Shaquem Battle had a great game against Miami. And Aiden White did too. He had a great game too.
Devin Boykin.
And just all of them had a great game on the whole defense. So, secondary, NC State. Coaching, I'm going to give it to Wake Forest.
Dave Clawson's a good coach. He just doesn't have much talent this year.
Yeah, he's been a very good coach, even though he didn't have much talent at all. But NC State, I've been loving what Dave Doran's been doing just by making the players believe that they can actually get to where they want to, fire them up, give them the energy they need to win, actually. But, I mean, Wake Forest, his coach.
They've been in the top 10 multiple times with not much NFL talent, so.
Yeah, they've been in the top 10 with basically just Sam Hartman, and they got rid of Sam Hartman, and now they're pretty horrible, but guess that's what happened when you get rid of Sam Hartman. And now the score predictions. I got NC State winning 20-10 against Wake Forest.
And I'm going to go with 24-10. I think I lowered this a little bit when I heard Brendan Armstrong was going to be the starter. But I think NC State's defense really does lock down Wake Forest for the most part, considering that Wake Forest offense hasn't been very good this year and that NC State defense might be the best in the ACC this year. So I'm going 24-10. I am really confident that this is a win for NC State, especially the crowd traveling to Wake Forest pretty well. All right, that's it for the NC State portion. Let's get into the Carolina portion. All right, on to the review of UNC versus Campbell. Obviously, this is an easy win for Carolina, although the first quarter was pretty angering. I mean, we were tied 7-7 going into the second quarter. That was really disappointing, but they kept going, and obviously the talent was just outmatching, and they won the game 59-7. At the end of the day, not much you can really gain here. The Tar Heels really did just need a win overall, though, so that's good that they got a win in the win column. Top 3 players of the game. I'm gonna start it out with. This is tough. I'm gonna start with O'Marion Hampton, 2 touchdowns, 144 yards, and 15 carries. It was debatable whether I go with him or Cedric Gray, but Cedric Gray also had a good game. 9 tackles, 2 sacks, and 3 TFLs. He was really good in this game. Really proud of him. And third, I'm going to go with a kind of a surprise pick, Connor Harrell. How about Connor Harrell taking over as the backup quarterback? 4 for 4, 71 yards and a touchdown, throwing and on the ground, 2 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. He is the fastest, maybe one of the fastest quarterbacks I've ever seen. Definitely the fastest quarterback I've seen play at Carolina. So we'll see. Does Carolina think he's the guy next year? We'll see about that.
Yeah, first time he did not put Drake May in the top 10. I meant top 3. Sorry.
He's definitely top 5 though.
But I mean, yeah, Connor Harrell. I mean, obviously Drake May's stats overall were better, but just by the amount of time he played, 100% completion rate for that many yards, a touchdown, running skill. Oh man, 60 whatever yards it was.
It was in one quarter, but
crazy.
It was only one quarter, but his PFF grade was a 95 point something. So that's insane. He was great in this game, even though it's still against Campbell. But the throw he made does translate against other teams. So let's get into the review of UNC versus Duke, the battle for the victory bell this week. We will be actually in attendance for both of these games. So if you can somehow find us, we'll have our TarPack shirts on. So find us there. All right, so getting into the quarterback, obviously Drake May has the advantage over true freshman Grayson Loftus. Drake May is the best quarterback in the country, in my opinion, and I think this is an easy one. Running back, O'Marion Hampton has slowly emerged to be maybe the best running back in the ACC and one of the best in the country. He really does remind you of Javonte Williams when you see him play.
Yeah, O'Marion Hampton is one of the best running backs in college football.
All right, going into the wide receivers, obviously it's Carolina. This is a strength in numbers group. With everybody really getting involved. Duke has a few players that are, definitely good players, but especially with a third stringer in, Jalen Moore is good and all, but I don't expect too much from this group. It's Jordan Moore, excuse me. Tight end, obviously the three-headed monster of Carolina wins out that battle. Offensive line is a pretty obvious win here for Duke, especially going up against Carolina's defensive line, which has been pretty bad since the South Carolina game. So Duke's offensive line is just more physical and more ready to play. D-line also goes to Duke here. Dwayne Carter is a really good player at D-tackle. Kamen Rucker is really good for Carolina, but that's about the only guy that's been producing consistently. So I'm going with Duke here in the D-line. So the trenches is the area where Carolina can get beat here. But linebacker, going back to Cedric Gray and Power Eccles, best duo in the country in my opinion. And in the secondary, I'm going Duke. They're an experienced, physical bunch, and Carolina kind of got beat up at corner a few weeks back against Georgia Tech. So I'm going to go with Duke here in the secondary. And coaching, this is tough. It was hard for me to do this, but Mike Elko has been turning things around, and there have been some questionable coaching calls from Mac Brown. Like, for example, against Campbell, when they were trying to make the field goal at the end of the half, and they didn't spike it, they decided to just run the freaking field goal unit on with like 3 seconds left, and the clock ran out. That was an atrocious call. Like, how do you manage to mess that up? But anyways, I do think Duke has the better coaches. I mean, that is tough to say, though. So my prediction here, I'm going with Carolina 35, Duke 21 in this game. I think Carolina's offense just does too much. I think even though it's a third-string quarterback, Carolina's defense just doesn't play well against backups, as well as they haven't been playing great of late. Obviously, last week was good because it was Campbell, but you can't take too much away from that. But I'm going 35-21 in this matchup.
And I'm going very high scoring, 40-37. Obviously, Duke got a good defense, but Carolina just has such a good offense. But obviously, Carolina's defense, I mean, the only reason I really gave Duke 37 is just for the reason of how Carolina's defense last year allowed Ben Finley for almost like 300 yards against Carolina's defense. I mean, yeah. So I'm just going to have Carolina winning 40-37.
All right, so that's going to wrap up the football portion. Let's briefly talk about the first matchups of the basketball season. How about that? All right, let's briefly talk about the first game for NC State and Carolina in basketball. NC State looked, I guess, okay in a 72-59 win over the Citadel. What were your thoughts in this matchup?
Yeah, well, obviously DJ Burns, the only reliable scorer on our team that we can just guarantee is going to make shots and everything. But how about Diarra? 14 rebounds, I mean, and 10 points. I mean, he got so many rebounds. He was going crazy out there.
Also had 3 blocks.
Yeah.
Transfer from Arizona State, DJ Horn, didn't have a great first game.
Casey Morsell, not that. I mean, kind of shame.
Better second half for Morsell.
Now, Jaden Taylor, 3 for 9, not great.
How about Michael O'Connell?
Now, Michael O'Connell, man. Wasn't expecting that from him, but 5 for 6, 4 for 5 from 3. We might need to switch up our starting. I mean, not now. Some players just have a bad game, but if DJ Horn keeps playing how he's been playing from the first game and keep doing that to other game, I mean, Michael O'Connell might have to, take his spot.
All right, let's wrap it up here this episode with the Carolina review. I thought Carolina was good, especially offensively. Radford is definitely a pretty good team. Radford's definitely better than Citadel or Dartmouth or any other team. Wow. Any other low-level team that the ACC played this week. But, Radford is solid. They were knocking down some tough shots in the first half. We did let them into the paint a little bit too easily, but we pulled away at the end. Player of the game, I'm going Armando Bacot, 25-point double-double with 13 rebounds. Also had 2 blocks, only 1 turnover and 1 foul. So really good game from Armando. I was impressed as well with Harrison Ingram, the transfer, and Cormac Ryan. They impacted the game a lot. True freshman Elliot Cadeau had his kind of first game hiccups, but overall he still had 6 assists, which is the main thing he's known for coming out of high school. And a lot of other bench guys were impressive as well, like Jalen Washington, who's starting to emerge as the sophomore player. But that's going to wrap up episode 12 of the TarPack podcast. Again, we will be in attendance for both those football matchups we were talking about. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at the TarPack podcast. Find us on Twitter. And thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next episode. Go Heels.
Go Pack.